Hello everyone, and welcome to Skilled Personality Training webinar. My name is António, and I'm the psychology expert here at Skilled. I'm here to talk to you about skilled personality assessment in order to give you a better comprehension of how this assessment works and how you can take more advantage of this personality analysis. At the end of this presentation, there will be a Q&A session where you can ask all of your questions about personality assessment. This will happen because as I am on the presentation, I cannot see your questions right now. Okay, so please ask your questions at the end of the presentation. Let's begin then. So today's main topic will focus on what is personality, how it is assessed, and why it is important to do it. Okay, so what is personality? The term of personality as a concept is not easy to define. There are many academic definitions for a personality, as it has been the subject of a vast number of investigations in the last decades. But despite some divergences in its conceptualization, scientists have agreed that personality can be described as a collection of traits that tend to remain consistent over time and have an impact on the interaction between the individual and the surrounding environment. So, how does it affect the surrounding environment? Well, personality has an impact on individual cognitive, emotional, and behavioral dimension. Personality will determine on the cognitive how an individual perceives an event. On the emotional side, how he feels about an event, and on the behavioral, how he reacts to an event. For example, an individual with a low score on emotional stability will have more tendency to perceive a stressful event as a threat, and it will start to feel anxious would tend to avoid these adverse situations. Okay, so through personality, we can predict how cognitive, emotional, and behavioral dimensions can have an impact in organizational variables, such as job performance, job satisfaction, leadership emergence, or job commitment. In fact, researchers have found some correlations between some personality traits and these variables. We will explore these results down the line. Okay. So, how did the study of personality evolve? Well, in the beginning of personality investigations, scientists' results often identified long lists of personality traits that try to explain this dimension. But over time, those lists started to reduce and group personality traits into categories. In the 80s appeared the Big Five model, developed by Costa and McRae, that managed to create a more simple and efficient framework that identified and classified personality traits into 5 dimensions. So this theoretical model has been validated by a large number of researchers in different countries, and today is the world for personality assessment. This model became one of the main references in the personality assessment, the Big Five framework. It categorizes personality traits into 5 categories: conscientiousness, extraversion, emotional stability, openness to experience, and agreeableness. So at Skilled, we are concerned about providing scientifically proven personality assessment since we believe that in evidence-based recruitment. That is why our test of choice is the PCI, the Personality Characteristics Inventory. This personality test was developed by Mount and Barrick, which were renowned investigators in the field of personality, and their work is still cited nowadays. This test is composed by 150 questions that assess personality based on the Big Five model. In addition, it provides 12 subscales that are entirely oriented to work contexts and 4 success scales that assess the impact of personality and in organizational context. It's important to say that the PCI is psychometrically valid and reliable with very good values in terms of psychometrics and provides an accurate personality assessment. Okay. So now we are going to analyze each one of these dimensions in order to give you a larger understanding of what traits these dimensions assess. Okay, so conscientiousness can be described as a measure of reliability. It indicates one's tendency to plan, to organize, and carry out tasks in a more disciplined manner. Okay, so this dimension involves the individual disposition to be task and goal oriented, his tendency to follow norms and rules, as well as planning, organizing, and prioritizing tasks. So here are some characteristics that are related to the dimension of conscientiousness. When results are high, individuals tend to manifest characteristics such as persistent, thorough, self-discipline, reliable, hardworking, and sometimes inflexible. Okay, as they have the tendency to be rule-oriented, they are inflexible in that way. When the results are low, individuals tend to be more easygoing, relaxed, less organized, and structured, and more spontaneous. This dimension was linked to job performance in overall jobs and was considered one of the most important traits to job performance. Emotional stability. So this dimension is often identified by its opposite, called neuroticism, that is associated to the tendency to feel negative feelings. So emotional stability is related to the tendency to handle stress, to maintain an even temperament, and to have a high degree of composure and self-confidence across most situations. On high results in emotional stability, individuals tend to be more confident, calm, stress-free, resilient, even temperament, and even may appear lack of interest as they are very stable. They try not to stress during more stressful situations. Okay. On low results, individuals tend to be more pessimistic, a little bit moody, tend to feel anxiety, and are easily overwhelmed and are more emotional. This dimension is important to jobs like customer service, education, and training, where an individual has to remain calm and deal with whatever stressful situation that might appear. The dimension of extroversion is related to the level of comfortability with social interaction. So extroversion is characterized by positive feeling and an energetic approach towards the social world. High scorers in extroversion So first of all, we have a problem with the so I will start with extroversion. Once again, I will just for the of extroversion is related to level of comfortability. Again, I will have to check this again. I'm very sorry. Okay, I'm very sorry for the loss of connections. I would just kindly ask you to write in the group chat if you can hear me well, please. Okay, perfect. I got confirmation. Well, I'm very sorry for the loss of connection. We'll start over with the extroversion, and hope this doesn't happen again. Okay. Once again, I apologize for the lack of connection. So, the dimension of extroversion is related to the level of comfortability with social interaction. Extroversion is characterized by positive feelings and an energetic approach towards the social world. High scores in extroversion tend to be more sociable, outgoing, energetic, talkative, and socially confident, and tend to talk too much. Okay. On the other hand, low scorers tend to be more shy, reserved, quiet, and independent. This dimension is important to jobs that require social interactions and where individuals must be socially comfortable. For example, job positions such as management, marketing, or sales positions. So moving on to agreeableness, this dimension is also known as friendliness and is defined by the tendency to be helpful, good natured, and cooperative. High scores in this dimension tend to be more altruistic, patient, kind, helpful. However, they are overly trusting and overly concerned. On the other hand, low scores tend to be more objective, straightforward, argumentative, and may appear not very sympathetic. So this dimension is important to jobs that require individuals to be helpful, patient, and considerate, such as customer service or team-oriented jobs that require teamwork and cooperation. Okay. And finally, openness to experience, which can be defined as a complexity of an individual mental experience. This dimension involves the individual disposition to experience new things, to get out of his comfort zone and think outside the box. Usually, openness to experience is often related to one's imaginative capacity. Open individuals usually are very creative, curious, and artistically sensitive. High scorers tend to be, well, of course, imaginative and creative, curious, perceptive, and intellectual. While low scores tend to be more practical, usually don't like abstract problems, and are more comfortable with routine. This dimension is important to creative jobs that require individuals to think outside the box and try to solve complex problems, such as engineering or science-related jobs. Okay. So here are the 12 subscales that the PCI assesses on top of the big five dimensions. Each one of these subscales are related to one of the big dimensions. Here is the diagram, and you can see how it is organized. So in agreeableness, we can find subscales such as cooperation and consideration. In emotional stability, we find even temperament and self-confidence. In conscientiousness, efficiency, dependability, and achievement striving. In the extraversion, we have leadership orientation, sociability, the need for recognition, and finally, in openness to experience, we find creative thinking and abstract thinking. Okay. Well, on top of the 12 subscales, the PCI also assesses 4 success scales. The scales are based on results of research that aim to study the relationship between personality and the organizational dimensions. Okay, so here we can find the subscale of commitment to work. It is related to how likely an individual can remain in a single position for a long time. Okay, this dimension is linked to conscientiousness and emotional stability. The subscale of integrity is related to the likelihood of an individual engaging in counterproductive behaviors. It's linked to conscientiousness, emotional stability, and agreeableness. The subscale of learning orientation is related to the extent to which an individual is willing to acquire knowledge and skill. Is linked to conscientiousness, openness to experience, and extraversion. And finally, the success scale of teamwork is related to how effectively the candidate is likely to behave in team environments. This dimension is linked to conscientiousness, emotional stability, and agreeableness. So overall, this is a description of the PCI and all its related subscales and success scales and how they are organized. Now, to better understand how we can use this in recruitment, we are going to see how these dimensions impact on organizational context. A lot of research was conducted with the primary aim of evaluating what was the impact of personality dimensions, like the big five, on job performance and organizational variables. The following slides will resume some of these findings that came up in further research. So, conscientiousness, as we seen before, is related to the tendency to one being organized and reliable. It was considered by research the main dimension that had an impact on overall job performance, meaning that high levels of conscientiousness were related to high job performance in all kinds of jobs, from clerical work to management. Additionally, researchers found that high conscientious individuals had the tendency to be more committed to their jobs, and they usually engage in more citizenship behaviors. Okay. So in emotional stability, has been linked to job performance because since it is connected to experience of negative emotions, individuals who score low in this dimension tend to perceive stressful work environment as an inductor of stress levels, jeopardizing their work results. So and in addition, they've also found that individuals who score high in emotional stability were more likely to perform better as a leader than the ones that score low, since leaders who are emotionally stable and are able to remain calm in stressful situations tend to perform better in these leadership positions. On the dimension of extroversion, they found that high performance in job oriented to social interactions such as sales or management, especially when they require interpersonal interactions. So since extroverts tend to feel more positive emotions than introverts, this also leads to higher job satisfaction rates than individuals that have lower levels of extroversion. And also, extroverts emerge more easily as leaders because they know how to express their emotions, how to communicate. They know how to persuade and influence others. So they have this tendency to by being socially comfortable, they are more performant as a leaders. However, having really high scores on extroversion may not be too good because the leaders might tend to be too dominant actually, and they have the tendency to not listening to the followers' input, depending on other traits. Obviously, here we can find a connection to agreeableness. So then agreeableness, which was linked to higher performance in social and in personal oriented jobs such as customer services. Also, people tend to be more compliant and rule abiding and less likely to engage in organizational deviance if they are high on agreeableness. This dimension is also important in teamwork since more agreeable individuals tend to be more cooperative and considerate of each other, achieving a better team performance. Okay, and finally, we can see that openness to experience is highly related to training performance, as we have seen before. Because this type of individuals tend to be more open to acquire new knowledge, and they are more curious and actively participating in these training sessions or education degrees. And as we also seen before, this eye open to experience individuals tend to perform better in creative job types. So, in conclusion, I just like to refer that it is important that this is only a prediction of what certain personality traits can impact on organizational context. And there is no such thing as a good or a bad personality. Okay, high or low levels of a certain personality trait must not be faced as good or bad because each one have a good and a bad consequences into organizational context. I think that yes, your assessment as a recruiter must focus on what is your ideal candidate and what traits or behaviors you want him to have in your workplace. So this will be the end. Thank you for your time. I'll be here now to answer all of your questions related to the personality assessment. Is there any question? You can write the questions in the chat box to your right, and then I'll be able to answer them. Yes, of course. I can see with Tom, and we can send the presentation to all of you. Okay, I will be more than happy to answer your question by email. That's not a problem at all. Yes. Um, yes. We have a list of all the questions that are part of the PCI, the personality assessment. I can send you also the metrics of validity and reliability. If you want, you can also discuss this. I can explain you how all the psychometrics can be are assessed and how they are built. Everything is statistically proven, and all the methods that are used to to create the PCI are the main. All of them are the general and are used in all kind of normative data. Okay, perfect. I will be more than happy to discuss it with you. So, um, if there are no further questions, I would like to thank you to have come to this webinar. I think that this was a great initiative by Tom, which I would like to thank. And also, I think that this will be the first step to try to give you more insight on how personality assessment can be used in recruitment. And certainly, we will do more sessions like this to keep you updated with also new research and new inputs on how to use personality into recruitment. Well, thank you very much again, and I'll keep this webinar concluded. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me by email. I will send you all of the participants. I will send them the presentation. You'll have access to my email, and any questions that might come up, feel free to reach me at any time. Okay. So once again, thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye.